This is my buddy, the Philippine gecko. He's good. Don't hurt him. So the question today is, can you adapt to living in the Philippines? I'm sitting out front and I'm going to let the natural noises filter in here. First of all, you better be adaptable and have patience because you have to accept different cultures, customs, traditions, the way they do things. Not the same as back home, but that's okay. I'm going to take a little stroll up the street. There's a drainage ditch by our house, my wife's house. You can see it's kind of grown up with weeds, but water does flow that way when it rains hard. Walking up the street behind Rosalina.
I had to go shopping after.
Here, a lot of people don't walk too far. They take tricycles because it's usually only 20, 30, 40 pesos for a short tricycle drive. And so they'd rather do that than walk. I like walking, but typically there are no sidewalks, so you got to walk without the sidewalk. And as you walk, you got to dodge things like I mentioned earlier. You got to dodge what I call the dog nuggets. And there was a little kind of superstitious trick here that they put bluing solution in bottles, and they empty bottles of soda and put water in the bluing solution, and they set it out front. It's supposed to keep the dog poop away, but I proved this morning that it doesn't work on the front of my house. So it's an interesting experiment. I think it's just superstitious, but hey, that it's worth a try. On the side, you can see I've got my blue bottles of bluing solution that supposedly keeps the dogs from pooping in your in for your front of your house. The neighbor has some too. Uh, I'm collecting data to see how well that goes. And here's a nice drainage dish. Her drainage dish is really nice and clean. Right here, I mentioned when you're walking in the Philippines, you have to watch out for the dog nuggets, I call it. Uh, there's a few around, but while you're walking the busy street, you have to watch out for the tricycles, bicycles, motorcycles, cars, and the dog nuggets. Like I said, almost stepped in that one. So the hazards of walking the streets. They're doing some construction up here, so they're uh, developing that building. Uh, there's a sleeping doggy up there too. There's a couple more issues if you're thinking of visiting or moving to the Philippines. Uh, no matter who they are in the Philippines, folks are very friendly and courteous, and a smile is frequent. So if you're a smiling kind of person and courteous and you enjoy people, you'll adapt pretty well to the Philippines. Now, if you're not, well, you may run into problems. So just keep that in mind. Also, be observant. It's funny. My wife was born in the Philippines, but she's become so accustomed to uh, life in the United States that when we're out walking around, she's not too observant. You have to watch the tricycles whizzing by and the motorcycles, and kind of have to watch behind you. You have to be careful. We've never been bothered here as far as crime or anything, but it does happen. So you have to be observant both in front of you, behind you, to the side of you, and just remember that the vast majority of people are there to help you, and they'll uh, help you as best they can. But there's a few places where you got to be very careful. So just keep that in mind. You have to be observant. I have my wife's garbage set out. The garbage pickup is on Tuesdays, I think. And the way they do it here, you just put it in a bag and set it out front, and they will pick it up. And I think you pay a small fee every month. It's not a whole lot. Pretty reasonable. Thing that kind of bothers me is when you watch all the travel bloggers to the Philippines and all the expats that live here, you rarely will find one that mentions any negative issues. And things happen here just like anywhere. But one of them is your money. You gotta if you have a significant budget income in the States and you come here, you're gonna be fine. If you come here with just your Social Security budget, or if you're still working and you have 1,000 or 2,000 you're coming on, you got to be real careful about how you spend your money because even though many things are cheaper here, some things are not. If you're going to buy a foreign-made appliance, it's going to cost you a fortune. If you go to McDonald's or Kentucky Fried Chicken or Domino's every day, you're going to all pay almost the same price as you would in the States. So you have to keep that in mind. You have to budget. And by the way, you cannot open a bank account here as a foreigner until you've typically been here for more than 6 months and you have what they call an ACR card and you have all kinds of vetting before they'll even allow you to open a bank account. So it's not easy. Now you can use international ATM machines, which work fine. You have to find them. They're not everywhere. And you can transfer money through Western Union. The thing I would caution you there is if you're not very careful, you will trigger their what they call their fraud money laundering algorithm, and they can block you, and it's very difficult to get unblocked. What they'll do is they'll tell you that you may be suspected of being a money launderer, or fraudster. They won't come out and say you're one because they know that would get them in a legal issue, but they will say that and they can block you. So if you're not careful, you can get into that situation. So you need to read the rules very carefully and stay well below the rules because their algorithm doesn't care whether you're following the rules or not. It just sees certain things and it can block you. Another thing to keep in mind regarding money is that most places in the Philippines use cash. They don't use credit cards. So if you're carrying around 1,000 peso bills and you stop by a small sari-sari store or even a grocery store to buy something small amount, a lot of times they won't have change. So you have to kind of manage your change that you have in your pocket. Of course, you don't want to carry around huge amounts of money, even if you have it, but you have to make sure you have some 50 peso bills, 100 peso bills, a few coins, 500 peso bills at least, as far as the largest, and that'll get you through the jeepney rides, tricycle rides, things like that. So keep that in mind. So I'll say that I enjoy the Philippines, and folks here are very nice, especially in a neighborhood where they know you and where they know everybody. Many times there's generations of people grow up in the same neighborhoods. Like where my wife's house is very close to where she grew up as a child. So half of them are relatives, cousins, and they all know each other. They know your family history. So in these neighborhoods, it's very safe. Everybody watches out for each other. It's fun in the morning to get out and talk with people, and that's the fun part of the Philippines. Just enjoy the culture, enjoy the folks, and of course, if you want to go to the beautiful beaches, you can do that. I should mention it's not a 15-minute ride away unless you're living in Boracay or Dumaguete or someplace like that. But you can take a flight, you can take a ferry, you can get to those places. But sometimes it's anywhere from a 2 hour to 8 hour or more ferry ride. So there's ways to do it. The best thing to do is kind of book ahead and be prepared, be flexible. Yeah, while I've got you watching this video, I'll show you some of the electrical cable wiring. Uh, Filipinos call it spaghetti wiring, which is not too bad in this section, but It's true in most cases. Uh, Apparently, the different providers don't coordinate like they do in the States as much. And I suspect that here in the Philippines, there's no governmental entity that enforces standardization. So you'll see cabling that's just scattered all over, fiber optics and things like that. We've had fiber optics in the house here for over a year. And it works. It's worked perfectly, even with the security cameras that I monitor from in the States. No problem at all. But uh, understand that's the way it works here. Now, you got to keep in mind that they have quite a few typhoons come through parts of the Philippines. They have earthquakes. They even have volcanoes sometimes that erupt. So if you're thinking about that, uh, maybe that's the best way to do it because if it gets torn down, well, you just put it right back up. And if it's more structured like we're used to in the States, it's much more costly and much more complicated to restore it. So just think of it that way. There's, there's they're adding to this building. Really nice job. Yeah, good job. Good job. A lot of hard work.